from the heart. And the last session of GLF is going to be about all of us talking from the heart. As many of you know, I'm Ruchira Gupta, and I used to be a journalist for 14 years, starting from Calcutta in the Telegraph and ending up with the BBC, and quit journalism because it felt that I could not do enough, and after winning an Emmy, and started a small NGO at that time with 22 women in prostitution called Apne Aap, which is now helping more than 20,000 women across India who are trapped in prostitution. And I also worked at the UN for 10 years in different countries, including in Kosovo, just after the war. And the violence at that time that I saw, which was related to conflict, was heart-wrenching. There was the trafficking of women. There was also the use of local women by soldiers who were posted there and supposed to guard them, who were treating them as sugar daddies and taking sex against favors that they would do in a time of shortages during war. I also saw, off-limit zones that we tried to create where brothels opened up in absolutely normal residential neighborhoods to feed this growing army of soldiers from different countries, UN peacekeeping troops. And it just kept on, and a lot of it was getting normalized. When I tried to work with the UN, I was working with the UN at that time, and together we created a gender task force to deal with this situation, which later, as a part of working for UN Women in New York, I worked on helping to get the resolution 1325 passed, in which not only were we supposed to, as all countries in the world, as humankind, look and pay special attention to the needs of women during war and conflict, but also at the same time make sure that women are at the peace table. Because very often women were not at the peace table, and negotiating peace became just a job of men, and they would neglect women's post-conflict needs. And so I'm really happy that GLF is ending on a note of peace and how women can wage peace, because women have to look after homes. They have to look after the future through the birth that they give to children. And so therefore, they have a longer-term interest in peace. And so therefore, I'm really, really pleased with the three panelists I have. Ornit Shani, who's a political historian, and she teaches at the Haifa University, and she's a mother from Israel, whose son was drafted to be a soldier. I also have with me Dhrubajyoti Bora, who's a very important and eminent writer and historian, won lots of awards, the Sahitya Academy Award. And he has been trying to look at the situation in the Northeast, particularly Assam, from the subaltern perspective. And he's been trying to look at popular history of Assam also through his writings and build bridges through that. And then I have with me Naseem Shafaie, who's from Kashmir. She's a poet. She was also a teacher for many, many years till she retired, and has dealt with conflict through poetry. So we have a beauty, creativity, brains, and a passion and a commitment towards peace through our own experiences. I would like Ornit to speak first.
So thanks, Ruchira, and it is important for me to say that I'm here today not as a writer or academic, but as a woman and as a mother to share an experience. The summer of 2014 was one of great despair. In just a few weeks, more than 2,000 people were killed as Israel launched a military operation in Gaza that left many more thousands of Palestinians homeless and in desperate need for emergency aid. During the same period, more than 4,000 rockets were fired from Gaza on Israel. And during that time, my son was doing his military mandatory service. You know, in Israel there is mandatory service, both girls and boys. Once they turned 18, they have to serve 3 years and 2 years respectively. I was torn in ways that there's no way I can describe in words, but I had to do something. And what I did as a mother, simply as a mother, I went publicly, I went on TV, on the news, and publicly questioned my government, questioned the government decision to embark on a military operation, especially the entering into Gaza. Just for you to understand the context, the Gaza Strip has the sea, the strip of the sea, and then from one side it has the land strip with Israel, which is all, fenced, and a strip of land fenced as well with Egypt. And the reason the Israeli government gave for entering Gaza, and that was, one of the main things, was that there were attack tunnels, underground tunnels through which Hamas fighters came underground into Israel and into Israeli small towns and villages just where the fence is, and attacked it. And my point is if that's the thing, and indeed there was hostility, as I said, 4,000 rockets were, fired from Gaza. In fact, before Israel launched the operation, there were fire thrown. So it was a threat, but I said, if the problem is attack tunnels and penetration through Israel, why do you need to go to Gaza? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me as a lay person, as a woman, as a mother, deal with that from within Israel. And I just wanted someone to give me a reply to that, why it's impossible. So I looked at what the government claimed and questioned it from a commonsensical standpoint. And with that I started an initiative called Mothers Asking, like mothers questioning the government. But at the same time, there were many other women that embarked on small initiatives. And I was also a few days later in a small meeting with Israeli Palestinian and Jewish Israeli women, a small group of women together. We were thinking, what can we do? It was clear for us that enough is enough. We couldn't anymore take this warmongering and the sense, the rhetoric, the discourse was that this war is inevitable, that there is no choice. For us, there was no choice but peace, but political solution. And at that time, I was thinking of embarking on a hunger strike in front of the Military of Defense in Tel Aviv, and a Palestinian woman in the room said, "I'm doing it with you." So, and you have to understand how against the odds that was in the midst of the war, that Palestinian women would sit with me, whose son was in Gaza at the time, out of his mandatory service. So there was it was an amazing thing that I do think there was something about our womanhood and being mothers that we were able to come together. Within few days, we even organized a big meeting in a nice cafe in Jaffa, where a lot of Israeli Arabs live, and we reached out for women in Gaza through the cell phone of one of the Palestinian women. We reached out for women in Gaza, and we could hear firsthand, testimony of what is actually happening. Then, again, really towards the end of the war, all these small initiatives of women brought us together to actually, in the shadow of the war, to start together, to bring together all these efforts and to start a movement, which is, we called it Women Wage Peace. And let me just jump to the end, because I think the most incredible thing that happened, this movement again started really towards the end of the war. Its first initiative or action took place in November 2014, a little bit after the war. But the last thing that happened, and it was very moving for me that Ruchira knew about it, in last October, there was a March of Hope, whereby from the north of Israel, it started from the north of Israel. Women marched, Palestinian, Israeli, and Jewish Israeli women marched through 2.5 weeks. They marched from the north of Israel to Jerusalem. And just before Jerusalem, at a place called Kassar, they marched as a march of hope for peace, demanding, I may say that the basic thing our movement demands is an agreeable political solution, a solution whereby women, according to the UN Resolution 1325, women will take part in decision making, because enough is enough. We want peace. That's the no choice by peace. And in this place, near Hebron, Kassar El Yahud, and you must go on the internet and look for the photos. This was the place where also Palestinian women from the West Bank could join the march. There were like 3,000 Israeli women, both Jewish and Palestinian, and another 1,000 Palestinian women who were marching together in the desert towards Jerusalem. It ended with 20,000 women in front of the Prime Minister's house demanding peace. But do you have a moment to say something about jumping back to the war rather than... So just to say a few words, so what happens is, so we started this movement, and you have to understand that it's without resources, without any leadership. In fact, the interesting thing is that it's a non-hierarchical movement. There is a slogan from the beginning: proposed, disposed. If you propose something, if you have an idea how to do it, implement it. So it all works on huge, overwhelming human resources. There are 10,000 women members who are activists on a daily, weekly basis. So since November 2014, we started with a peace train, women that were coming on the train from the north of Israel to the south, in all stations, coming on the trains, doing a march to inaugurate the movement. And since then, when I'm saying 10,000 women, it's really women. And you know, I know it sounds, in India, 10,000 sounds such a small-scale thing. But you have to understand that Israel is the size of a, medium-sized Indian city. So it has only 8 million citizens, and it's a very small country. So 10,000 activists is quite a lot, yeah. And having 20,000, filling the streets of Jerusalem was quite an overwhelming sight. So every week, standing at junctures, doing parlor meetings and people houses, doing huge amount of grassroots activities. The interesting thing about the movement is that it's trying, and it's successfully bringing together women of all ranks, of all ages, Palestinian, Jewish, Orthodox, secular, Muslim, Christians, Russians, from the periphery and from the center. Many ages. Sometimes you have in the movement grandmothers, daughters, and their daughters, right, grandchildren. And ongoing activities. So just one ongoing grassroots activities that is taking place is called Israeli salad, like a salad that you bring together people from different communities, etc. You sit and you basically training women that never before had a say in the public sphere, right? Even when people meet in family dinners, it's the men who speak about peace and solution because they know about it and women do not know about it. And that's part of what the war brought into the center of the discourse and the agenda, that in fact women has a lot to say. I mean, Ruchira was speaking about the resolution and where it came from and the Kosovo experience. In Israel, this phenomenon, for example, sexual violence, etc., that doesn't exist in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But women are affected seriously in other ways, right? There's for example, the boundaries are blurred between the front line and the hinterland, right? I live in Tel Aviv, but during the war I had to go to the shelter at least twice a day because of missiles. So, there's no who is combatant and citizen. Everyone is in the war. There's a lot of data to show that during war, domestic violence increased. So social security, personal security, employment security, all these things are things where people are at the front line of being affected. And our mission is, just as the last thing, is to try and change the discourse in two ways, change the political language in two ways. One is to bring peace back in. The word wanting peace has just disappeared because we're being convinced that forever we'll have to live with the sword, and we're not accepting it. So peace, and that's, no choice by peace, and it's about let's imagine peace. Let's talk about not what we're going to give up on, but what we're going to gain. And the second thing is to think about security, not in the way that it's being thought of. To find alternative ways. Security is not how many more missiles, tanks, aircrafts, etc. you'll have. Security is about personal security. It's about socio-economic security, which brings also the ability to live together, etc. So thank you for listening to that. And
Thank you, Ornit, for sharing such a personal story and how you turned that personal anguish into a political movement. And you know, when you're doing something, you don't know whether it's big or small. Only time will show. So I'm sure we are going to have peace in the Middle East, and you will be part of that process. So thank you. And next is, I just want to say that, you know, how we can normalize war. And when I was listening to Ornit, I was thinking, you know, jumping into bunkers, shifting from here to there. She was saying it so normally. And in India, you know, in America, where I go and teach at New York University, you know, everyone owns a gun. Lot of people. And they cannot imagine that in India, nobody owns a gun. So, you know, for them, there are mothers in America who are campaigning to, you know, have gun control, to stop the sale of guns so easily. It was one of Hillary Clinton's campaign slogans, and it was considered wrong. People were told, you know, there was a backlash against that, and people told Hillary that, what do you mean, you're going to take away our guns? Even school students, even women. So it's only mothers who begin to lose their children, and when there's a culture of violence creeps in, that we begin to see what a difference it makes and how normalized it gets. Because in India, we don't even know that. We don't even know that. And you know, one of the most beautiful things which happened in India was that we won the freedom struggle, the independence of India without a war, which even America cannot claim. And now I would like Dhrubada to speak about his experiences.
You can very well see that I am really the odd man out in such a panel of illustrious women. As a writer, what I have felt and seen, I want to share 2.5 stories with you today. One, you see the Northeast, and especially in Assam, in the last 20, 30 years, we are seeing a lot of ethnic movements. And some of these ethnic movements have turned into ethnic insurgencies, armed struggles. And when arms come into such ethnic struggles, you find we and they, and your gun is turned against they, which is another ethnic group. So all the bad things of ethnic nationalism, specifically ethnic cleansing and pogroms and all these things come in. That is the background of the first story I am going to narrate. One girl who had her residence in the area of Assam called Odalguri. They had a good family, and during one of these ethnic violences, both her father and mother were shot dead before her, and she was violated sexually. This girl, not willing to take these kind of things lying down, joined another insurgent group and became a very, very tough instructor herself, who produced soldiers of hate. After that, during the ups and downs of this insurgency movement, she came to realize that no, this is not right. This is not the right thing to do. And she came back and became an entrepreneur, and now she gives employment to more than 200 people, mostly women. But her being an entrepreneur and having a change of heart is not the point I want to make. The main point is she has become a very important member in the peace negotiation process with the government and the insurgent group. And it is a way fraught with a lot of dangers and heartbreaks, I can tell you. And this is one example of women, how they behave in different situations, how they do what they do, and what changes they can bring I wanted to tell you. The second is another very important aspect. You know, many areas of Assam are called the so-called tribal areas, and they are really backward. And some of the tea garden areas and ex-tea garden laborers, those are very neglected. Still, those people are not treated by the authorities or the employers or people as people. Yeah. So, amongst them, lot of superstitions do occur. And one of the superstition is finding witches. And then the hunt for the witch occurs. Some usually very old, feeble, or some person due to some internal politics of the group, they identify as witches, started torturing them and even killing them. And this thing, which is unbelievable at these times, took on. It happens in Bihar, it happens in parts of Bengal also, and it has become endemic in parts of Assam. And one courageous lady, Birubala Rabha, she took up the cause of fighting against this witchcraft. We see the big wars, we see bombs bursting, we see people killing, but we do not see these civil conflicts. These conflicts which are equally bloody, which are equally tragic, and which impacts our life. The half story that I want to make is that I have been doing a lot of work, not lot of work, some work among the internally displaced peoples, refugees. I want to take the name of one particular grandmother, Juleika, her name is, how she has helped the people who have to leave their home and hearts in ethnic violence and staying in the refugee camps. They are internal refugees. Amongst them, every day there is childbirth, there are fever, there are all kinds of maladies. Food is always never sufficient. But she has one woman in a camp of nearly 450 inmates, how she had made a difference of organizing and doing the things. And how she has inspired me. These 2.5 stories, I just want to place before you as a woman having their stakes in peace, not only in the war situations, but also situations of civil conflict, social conflict, and other areas, so that it brings you a realization the enormity of the problem and the stakes women do have in such situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dhrubada, and I hope that the 2.5 stories will become 3 stories, and we will see it in writing in Assamese. We look forward to it in your writing. I now want to ask Naseem Shafaie, who has lived in Kashmir right through the conflict, has been a teacher and also a poet, how women in Kashmir, have been waging peace, and what role can poetry play in creating peace and keeping the hope of peace going. And Naseem, I would love it if you recited something from your poetry at the end or the beginning, whenever.
Thank you so much. Please bear with me that I have bad throat. मुझे कुछ खास नहीं जो इन्होंने कही, whatever they said, both of them, because we are talking about conflict areas. One may or may not agree with the conflict at all, but these are the things which women in conflict areas go through. And I wish, like Ornit said, that my Kashmir had, in near future, a very strong women's organization who would at least not become a part of peace brokers, but do something for the people. We do there, but we are not so organized. To me, I have gone through like so many difficulties. My husband was abducted. He was a journalist. He is a journalist. He was shot at 5 times. But God has been very nice to me. He's alive, but the whole life derailed, to tell you. But I went to my pen. I wrote what I could feel and what somebody else who don't have a pen or paper who cannot express. That is there. And I am busy with that. I wish we have an organized women's movement there. Maybe a translation of a poem. Just a second. I know we are running short.
But we still want to hear your poem, please.
This is translation, English. I write in Kashmiri. So,
Are four lines you recite in Kashmiri
yes. It is the return. Please turn back. Come back. When verse gay, Mets Ambaras, can you pedestal, Earth Kaz beautiful, but Kaz kotut, one Kaz kotut, that you want to hain, when you boozutna. This is Kashmiri, small poem. Yeah, the return. The years have passed since, yet it seems as if it was only yesterday when you hid under the mounds of earth, under the graveyard stone, a still body hidden from my sight. Why did you hide? Why did you hide? Did they not tell you there? Did you not hear that the path near the wide road in that small bylane, the old chinar with its frightening shadows and evil spirits that would follow you in your child fantasies, have long since left for far off unknown places. Now there is no danger, no fright, no wait for endless nights to return home. Come back to me without fear or fright. Return home once again like a child. Come now, for my wait for you is unbearable. Come, for I pine for you. I will call you out for you and sing wedding songs for thee. Come back, my dear. Oh, I would give my very life for you. Thank you. I think this is conveyance.
So on that note, I will give my life for you. The festival comes to an end. This is the last session. We had just half an hour. We've tried to convey the situation that we are facing in the world today and the hope that we have and how women can actually stand up to gun violence in different ways. And we hope you will join all our movements to wage peace and protest when someone increases expenditure and budgets on guns rather than on girls. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, once more I would like to thank our panel, Dhrubajyoti Bora, Naseem Shafaie, Ornit, Shani and Ruchira Gupta for a wonderful session, Women Waging Peace. And we thank you all for being a wonderful audience, and the entire JLF is thankful to you for your attendance. I would again like this opportunity to thank my entire team, my venue manager, Jessica, my volunteers, Mudit, Shelly, Phoebe, Naveen, Digvijay, as well as our technical team, Ramdas ji, Manoj, Badal, our author liaison, Purvai and Mahika, our book signing volunteers, Divyani, Isabel, and Shalini as well from the technical team, and also